Welcome to the Stay Paid podcast, where we help agents and entrepreneurs master the latest business trends to unlock growth and create a life of freedom. Brought to you by Reminder Media.
Let's roll.
We ready? Yeah. All right. Well, that's fantastic. Welcome to our new Stay Paid podcast.
Exactly. Where we talk about fat on your back.
Fat on your back.
Yep. Not really.
It might take us a minute to get the new flow here, but we talked about the last episode that we were cutting back to one episode a week and going to try and do like a slightly different format. So we've got a couple guests on the show today, but
yes,
one that you'll be very familiar with, Stephen Acree. You lead a team down in Lynchburg, Virginia, the Acree Brothers Realty team, and then along with you is Cody, who's director of sales.
Yes,
Cody leading the sales there on
Cody's
the mega team.
The real talent. That's why we wanted Cody to come on the show, because I was just like, everybody thinks Steven's been running this great team, and it's really Cody behind the scenes, right? It's kind of like Tim Cook and Steve Jobs, because Tim Cook took it to a trillion, baby.
He was the operational guy.
Exactly. No, I'm just kidding. Well, we got that message from Sean Carpenter today.
It was awesome.
He said, "You effing quitters."
Quitters. He called us.
He sent us a nice video message because our episode that released actually today. It's basically told people we're ending silver dollars. We told our whole audience we're ending our silver dollars, which is our Thursday episodes. We're ending doing two different shows for the insurance and real estate. We're going back to one show once a week. And he sent us a nice inspirational message that goes, "Congrats, Luke and Josh, you freaking effing quitters." And I was like, "You're right, Sean. We quit. We gave up."
Are the dad jokes staying at least, or
yeah? Are we what?
The dad jokes at the end? You always have like a joke or something at the end.
We will still keep the dad jokes.
Yeah?
Yeah, we'll keep the dad jokes.
I'll have to come up with one because I didn't write one down.
You know what it is? It's like, I don't know if you guys find this of the podcasts that I listen to. The podcasts that I listen to that I enjoy the most are the ones where they are conversational, where it's not you're being talked at, but you're just listening in.
Yeah.
And so the goal of kind of doing this new style and new format, going down to one show a week. The one show a week really stems from, look, how much time should you spend doing content in your business? Maybe we can talk about that today. I don't know the magic answer. We were just doing way too much.
Yeah.
Like we were doing minimum 4 hours a week a piece of content.
What are you guys doing in your business from a content perspective? Obviously, you've got a team.
Yeah, we went back to the grind. We were like, basically sales is what matters. So we cut back huge as well on our content.
I was going to say, I noticed a little bit less on your Instagram.
Yeah. It just has an impact in the bottom line. So
we were doing like what we were trying to do, one podcast a week and then breaking it down to the short. But as of right now, it's like one a month is that we kind of got to. But we want to get back at it.
Did your bottom line improve or like go bad when you
drastically improve? But
improved when you stopped content, right? Or did less content, right?
Yeah, less content and then more sales, but we don't have a vehicle as much for the content to bring in, transactions. So eventually that would, for you guys, a little bit different. For us, it's not as impactful.
Yeah, we wanted to focus back in on what's most important, and then we're going to build that side back up again. But for the time being, it's like, let's just hunker down and get some sales, baby.
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't think it's necessarily a direct correlation from the standpoint of like, if you could do the content and do the focus on sales, then that's better. But it's just a time thing. That's the problem with it. Yeah. It's like the time it takes to do all this content doesn't net the dividends that actually prospecting would for you in a business.
It's interesting because we've interviewed so many people that get tons of deals from there. But you guys are saying now that the content just wasn't translated for your team.
You know what I mean? So like there's another team in the Shenandoah Valley, Cody Persinger, and all his leads come from his social media. But he's done it up so well, and he spends so much time with it, and we didn't have the time to put in what we needed to put in to make it profitable. But, like we said, like we're going to go back to it, but it's more of like, hey, we need a marketing specialist, doing this with us alongside of us. And then I need to be completely out of sales, which I'm back in sales right now.
Yeah, it's similar on our side. It's that Josh and I looked at the time we were spending and going, look, we love the show. We want to still bring the content, but two things we want to have happen. One is free Josh up to be able to focus more on product development and creation, because that's what's important to our business right now. And then me free up the time to do sales. It's a hard market out there right now, meaning our sales, normally we're growing 15 to 20% a year, and it feels almost like we're flatlining, where we're not declining necessarily, but it doesn't seem like we're going to have much growth. And, the market with inventory low, interest rates high, 49% of real estate agents didn't do a deal last year, so they're crunched now with funds and not spending the money. So my focus has to be on, how do I get in, re-energize the sales team, drive sales, work with Josh to create the products that are needed for times like this? Like, that's really why, why are we going away from the content? It's not because we don't like content, it's because that's more important, and spending that time on it. I'm curious, how is the whole, situation in the industry affected you guys? Because you're just a microcosm down in Lynchburg, Virginia. But if you look at it, what do we have? We have higher interest rates, 7% or so. We have low inventory, still historic low, I think. And you have the NAR lawsuit.
Right, yeah.
So, what is your kind of thought process on that? What are you doing right now to attack that?
Yeah, main thing, we always talk about perspective, so one of the things that we do as a team is just we keep our eyes on, we cannot change the NAR settlement, and what happens there, and we've never had the ability to. So we've always had to take things as it comes. So that's the number one thing. We actually see, we talk about it, but we see the NAR settlement as a good thing for our industry. It's been really good for our team over the last couple of months, making the changes that we need to make. As far as
why do you say it's been really good though? Because that's opposite of what I've heard a lot of people say.
So it's not good for people who think that, complaining about the NAR settlement and stuff like that's going to do them any justice. If you attack it head on and go, now we have a standard that's set by the Department of Justice that says we have to get an exclusive right signed at our initial meeting, and that the buyer's the buyer pays the buyer's agent commission. Mm-hmm. Now that that's set in stone, it's funny how people just fall in line. So for one of the agents on our team, he just got 3 exclusive rights signed recently by saying
off the first meeting.
Yeah,
when you're supposed to immediately buyer's consultation signing. He did it, and he wasn't doing that prior.
Right. And we've been ahead of the game a little. Last year and a half, we've been preaching buyer's consultation, get the exclusive right signed. But it forces people, I think, into action that they feel like they have to now, right? Which is a conversation that should have been happening in the first place. And because it's just a set rule, now they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is getting that exclusive right signed.
Go ahead, Cody.
I said it's been nice because we've already been very first call. The main objective is to build that relationship and then set a buyer's consultation. Not go see a house, not go do anything else. The buyer's consultation is set, which is what everyone has to do now. You have to do that first, and in that get it signed. So the missing piece was that everyone was getting things signed in that appointment, but now it's a non-negotiable that you have to. So, and that's kind of forced it, which has been nice because you want that anyway. Yeah. You should, every realtor.
Are you hearing though the consumer specifically actually object or ask you questions about the lawsuit? What are you hearing they're asking you?
What's funny about that is what people don't know about this industry is we've been getting those questions since I've been in the business, right? About commissions. And so the conversation actually happens almost in the same light. Why do I have to pay out a commission? And it's just then being able to explain, what's happening in the industry. So for instance, I just said, it's a wash because in the end, the seller wants to sell for the most price and buyers can't afford to pay the buyer's agent commission, but the buyer needs representation still, right? And so what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up putting the commission in every single offer, right, that comes forward, regardless of the seller saying, I'm going to pay a cooperating broker, right, fee. Because you can still pay out a cooperating brokerage fee if you want to market to buyer's agents, bringing a buyer into the property. And you're not really marketing to the buyer's agent, you're marketing to the buyer, right? Because it's the concession that's paid to the buyer and then they pay it out to the buyer's agent. Right. But it's just a wash. The seller in the end is going to make the most money by paying out more concessions to bring in activity.
Have you dealt yet with, I was curious about this. I was listening to, I think it was Jarrett James, who's one of the coaches in the industry, and he's put out a lot of great content around this NAR lawsuit. But have you run into yet anybody where you've submitted the offer and the seller doesn't want to pay and give that concession, and you now have to go back to your buyer? What are you telling your buyer in that instance?
Well, the good thing is generally when that happens, there's not a lot of activity on that listing, right? So in the end, if that ends up being the case where the seller's not paying a commission, generally you're actually going to end up getting a better deal. And then it's just looking at your cash on cash return from the buyer standpoint versus equity, right? Because if the buyer's paying out the commission, then they're probably going to end up winning on the equity in the property, because there's not going to be a ton of activity on that listing. Or if there's a ton of activity, it means they priced it low, right? So it's just being able to explain that to your buyer. Hey, you might have more cash out of pocket, but you're winning in this regard when it comes to equity. And then you need to have that conversation up front.
Do you adjust your offer? So I'm just making this up, but do you adjust your offer? Sure. The way I'm thinking about it is, hey, Josh, we're going to present to the seller, Cody, this is our price point. They're going to cover my commission of 3% and so forth. And let's say the commission was six grand. When Josh or Cody says, nope, not going to pay the commission, you go back to Josh, you go, hey, we're going to lower our offer by $6 grand? Or
not generally, because that's cash. We're talking about cash out of pocket versus it being in the loan, right? So
gotcha. Yep.
They're going to end up having to pay cash out of pocket. And so I think that's the explaining to the buyer when they're coming through, is how you can structure things to where they have less. And this has always been the case. That's what, I'm talking about. But it's just explaining to the buyer that they're going to have more cash out of pocket with one purchase, and they're going to have less cash out of pocket, maybe less equity on another offer, right? And it's just structuring it to what property do you want, right, at that point. And you're just walking them through it.
Yeah, and it all starts with that initial conversation too.
Yeah.
So like the very first, when you're explaining your exclusive rights that they're signing, you're explaining like, hey, the opposite broker is offering this, and if they don't, then we'll work it into the deal of what we're asking, or we might have to come at.
So setting those clear expectations, basically.
Yeah. So the expectation is that buyer's consultation, which is why it's so important. And then on the latter hand, once the offer's put in, you have to explain it again,
right?
About what's going on if they're not offering the compensation of which you put in the exclusive rights.
And one thing that might be helpful to, I guess, buyers agents out there is most seasoned sellers understand the benefits of paying out a cooperating brokerage fee. So we don't have many conversations, even with this NAR settlement, where people are aware of it, where they're tough conversations. Like when I've met with 3 sellers recently, completely aware of the settlement, talking about commissions, but they have no problem paying out 3%, right, to a cooperating broker, because they understand the benefits. So I don't think it's going to be a subject that's going to be too hard to tackle, mainly because it's just a wash, right? The seller will end up paying out those fees because they're going to make more money by doing that.
Yeah, honestly, the more of the conversations haven't been with clients, it's been with Sphere.
Yeah.
All my friends have asked me about it, right?
Because they think you're losing your job almost. Like they think you, because the headlines.
Hey, what's going on with this?
It's like, are you still going to be in real estate?
Yeah, things asking actual clients, because when we're doing that breakdown, it's very straightforward. The language is all there as well, so we can explain in detail. But the people are like, hey, we've seen all this going on. What's happening?
Right.
And then it's an explanation from there.
Didn't you guys get invited to
a touch point with your Sphere, by the way?
It's a great touch point for your Sphere, because you get to control the narrative and ultimately, why do you use anybody? I was actually on a webinar earlier today coaching a real estate office right before this podcast. And I made them think this thought. I basically said, hey, if you right now had to go choose somebody to help you invest your 401k or in the S&P 500, who's coming to your mind right now? And I was like, just think, it's probably a name, and it's somebody that that you feel knows the most about the S&P 500 or 401k that you're connected to. And I said, all that is that person is the subject matter expert in your mind. And the reason they're the subject matter expert in your mind is because they somehow have showcased to you through content, through marketing of their brand or something, that's what they do. Mm-hmm. Now, your level of trust in their subject matter expertness might be expertness. That's not even a word.
Expertise.
Right? Exactly. Their expertise might be low or high, but the point I'm making is what an amazing opportunity to call your Sphere and showcase this is what the lawsuit is and what it means. They're already curious, and it raises your expertise. Got the word right that time. in their mind.
Is the average person thinking about, like, are you guys finding, is the average person thinking about a NAR lawsuit?
They're seeing it. They're for sure seeing it. It's a subject.
It's all over the news.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared, because if you live in the fear, mindset, and you have that causes you to have no confidence, right? Then you won't win the deal, because confidence is what actually gets you to sign the paperwork that's in front of you. So you do need to be a subject expert on this settlement, right, for these conversations that come forth.
But don't you believe so much of confidence, Stephen, comes from tone?
It really comes from experience. Obviously, the exuding of confidence comes from tonality. But the actual confidence just comes from doing it, obviously over and over again.
What is it Michael Bird, I think, says is confidence is the memory of success?
That's great.
And I was like, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Confidence is the memory of success.
Well, and it just shows, like I think in these conversations, it's like, I'm knowledgeable about it.
Yeah.
And that creates confidence too. It's like, oh, okay, he's not surprised by it. Not scared of it. Like, right. I understand it. I can talk through it. We don't actually understand all of it because we don't have the rules of exactly what's going to happen. But to knowledgeably speak to it, and then from experience be able to talk to that.
One thing that will give confidence, I think, to people is like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac came out with basically saying they're going to allow you to add that in as a concession, not on top of the 3%, 6% that they can already give out for concessions. So they're going to allow that buyer's agent commission to be in the loan if it becomes standard, which, like, for me, I'm like, there's no way it's not going to become standard. I mean, it already is.
So they'll allow you to and pay the commissions through the loan.
So you can only have a certain amount of concessions for like conventional and FHA that's paid out. And so they're going to allow, on top of those already made concessions that you have a max on, they're going to allow for that buyer's agent fee to be in there as well.
So if that happens, that basically means there's no change.
It's just a wash, completely. And it will become
Well, I mean, it's a change in the sense of the buyer maybe gets screwed a little bit because their loan's bigger.
It won't be, though, because if you're looking at equity in the way it works right now, the seller's paying out that commission as we are talking about it now. So it will be just a complete wash on top of it.
But nothing will change because it's still in the purchase price.
Right.
So you don't have to, you're asking for this, and then we're including in our loan.
And if they make it standard, VA is going to have to make it standard as well, which they haven't moved or shifted in that way. They don't pay out any other fees. They don't allow for it, but they'll have to do that as well if they want to treat veterans right, with the VA loan.
Didn't you guys get invited, or Stephen, maybe you got invited to like a Gary Keller top 100 or whatever, top 50 mastermind? Like, what did Gary say on this? Give the scoop, spill the beans on what Gary said.
I mean, he's basically saying,
do they make you sign an NDA like you can't share or not? Like,
well, you can't talk about set commission, so you can't talk about percentages. So that's
I know that. I was saying, I was referring more towards Gary Keller. Like, does he, when he invites you to these things, does he say don't share this with other people, or does?
No, this is where it's coming from, right? What I'm speaking about is like, he had no fear whatsoever. He said the same thing, which is it's just going to be a 2-month time frame, and then everything's going to go and be normalized after 2 months, is what he said. And that's what we're seeing as well. Like, even the team, we're approaching it faster than other brokerages, and teams are approaching it, and independents are getting that information. And we're already normalizing it on the team. So, like, we've been doing these conversations for the last 2 months, and it's not a difficult conversation with the team, right? Because it will become that wash, like we're talking about.
How many transactions have you guys done this year so far?
So around like 120.
Yeah,
120, and we're in, I guess, end of April. We just started May. Okay.
Yeah, pending and closed deals. But we're doing right now, we did 36 last month, and we were at 28. I guess 28 last month, and the month before 36. And this month we're already 2 deals in, 2 days in. So we should hit another 30.
Yeah, and even our market, we were reviewing, April just ended. So from compare last year to last year, month over month, April of 2024, April 2023, we're up 110 solds from last year. Listings are up almost 90. Under contracts are up about 90. So the market, and everything's hyper-local, obviously, but for us, like, even the market across the board is up from last year, and interest rates are higher than last year, which is great. So everything is actually on an upward trend, and our list price Last year, this time was 283 for April of 2023. And this year it's like 313. So it's like 30,000 up in list price as well.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just read an article that rates are probably not going to come down. PNC, my banker, just sent me an article too saying there's just no way rates are going to come down.
I've been waiting to
Yeah, a lot of people are thinking they're going to go up a little bit.
Yeah.
Actually, under yesterday.
Because inflation, they can't stop it. They
Yeah.
can't stop it. I mean, we won't get into the politics of it. No, let's get into the politics of it. I'm just kidding. No, we won't do that.
Yeah, he said like the positive now is that we're just looking to stay where we're at.
Yeah.
Like the fear is more that it's gonna go higher than talks of a drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if it goes down too, prices are going up. So good for sellers.
Yeah, but I saw I mean, I don't know if you can believe these reels that you watch, but you know, because we put them out, so definitely don't believe them.
Shots fired.
No, these reels that come out, like I watched one where it was like the average price point for somebody or the average home price was like, you know, I don't know if they said 2 decades ago was like 100 and something thousand, and the average salary was like
I saw something super
similar. And it was like crazy. It was like the average salary was like 32,000 or 31,000, but your mortgage payment in ratio to the price of the home, you could afford it.
Yeah.
The average price point today is like 412,000 or something.
Yeah.
And you need $120,000 salary to afford that type of home is what they're saying.
That's why we're in a renter's nation too.
Yeah.
People didn't understand it's like for the first time really in history, mortgages are higher than what rents are.
And think about it this way, even deeper, it's like it really is an attack on society because the nucleus and the stability of all society is a family. And it forces the husband and wife both to have to work, which forces meaning like you have to have a dual income household. And, I think dual income households are fine. And I don't think, you have to stay home or anything like that. It's just the point of going like, there's no more staying at home. If you don't have one person who's making at least $120,000+ a year, it becomes very difficult. And then that has an effect on the family, which has an effect on the kids. And it just trickles all the way down. Yeah. And so it's just wild how that takes place.
Yeah, it's funny how hard it is, I think, for employers right now, like, because we even look at the salaries that we're offering on the team. And I remember approaching, people at $35,000 salaries and it just being incredible for them. And now, like, to give them a $50,000 salary is like a slap in the face to them, So I think we're like in this like shifting economy right now where it's like it is hard on employers because we don't know what to do with inflation because we're going up on salaries.
We can't raise our prices fast enough.
We can't raise the prices fast enough, right? And if we raise the prices, we can't bring them down if inflation goes back down.
That's my problem is I can't raise the price fast enough. And I can't afford to pay a position that creates a certain amount of value, right? If you wonder, why do I get paid the way I get paid? You got to trace your position back to the amount of money it generates for the organization. So it's like, it's going to generate money is one of two ways. It's going to generate actual new money, or it's going to generate money by saving time, which i.e. is a cost-cutting savings. And so it's like, oh, you've saved me time, so I can pay you $1,000 a week because I was spending, whatever amount of my time, which was $1,500 a week. So I'm netting positive $500. Right. So I'm willing to pay somebody to cut my costs down by having them focus on it. Everybody knows this type of stuff. But the point being is like, it doesn't make sense anymore. The math doesn't make sense. And you're just like, I can't afford to pay that position because it doesn't. Even though I would love to pay you more, I just can't afford it.
Which is why the key right now is sales. It's like, that's why we're back in the business and pulling back from social media. And the focal point is we've got to get sales through the roof. And that should be every company's number one thing right now, is just focusing on how do I increase sales at this moment. And it's going to be a grind. It will always be, like you guys probably do it with your dialers, but it is always upping the amount of phone conversations that you're having, the amount of relationships you're building. It's always going to be that to solve it.
Well,
until you
speaking
get to a
of,
stable point.
it's a great segue, Stephen. I don't know if you're looking at our notes. Let's talk about the sales strategy of the week.
Yeah.
Can we get a bumper, Ethan? Sales.
Yeah, get the lights. Get the lights in the background.
Listen, this is something new we want to do. Marketing sales strategy of the week. Luke, you mentioned something. We got the lights going.
I love
that
it.
is amazing.
The lights in the studio.
And
Over there,
But there's this thing that you've been working with a new agent on.
Oh yeah, so the sales strategy of the week that I wanted to bring up was what I call the ZMA from Jimmy Mackin, or maybe you call it CMA a day.
Yeah.
Keeps the scaries
money
away. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, what were you
Keeps
gonna
the
say?
money
Keeps
coming your way.
Oh, dude,
A
freaking
CMA.
poet right here.
Too many syllables.
Josh takes everything I say and makes it better.
Yeah.
A true marketing genius, ladies and gentlemen. So the CMA a day is a strategy Jimmy Mackin, I think, created. So give all credit to him. The guy's a beast. Follow him. But essentially, it is go to Zillow. Well, first, go to your database. Pick people in your database that you want to engage in conversation with, that you think, hey, maybe they're interested in buying or selling. Maybe they are, interested in knowing what the value of their home's worth. So if I went to you in my database, Stephen, then I go to Zillow because I have your address of where you live. I find you on Zillow. I find the Zestimate, and I take a screenshot of that home with the Zestimate, and I text it to you, and I go, hey, Stephen, was looking at homes in your area. I want to see what your home was worth. Hey, man, what do you think of this Zestimate? I have my opinion on it, but what's your opinion?
Yeah, it's
And
beautiful.
it's a great way to obviously engage a convo. Now, we have Tim doing it on your team some. And I think he texted us today. He did 3 yesterday, but I was talking to him and he said, he had done, I think at the time I talked to him, he had done like 10 of them and had 3 combos that were progressing.
Total or in that day?
No, over the time he had
Over
done
the time,
10 of
okay.
this was a couple weeks back when I had talked to him about it at that point, because we had just started the strategy. So, because it's time consuming. So you're not going to do it to more than probably a couple people a day.
Right.
Unless you have found a way to do it fast. But he had done it. And so that ratio of I can text 10 people and 3 of them engage me in an actual conversation about real estate is freaking phenomenal. Because even if they don't.
Did he say what people's responses were?
He said they were actually really good. It was people would talk to him about the value of their home. And one person specifically said, yeah, I do need to talk to you about selling my home, basically. So he felt he was going to get a listing appointment from it.
Wow.
So he felt very good about the CMA. The problem is it's all manual.
Yeah.
So manual tasks don't work well for real estate agents. No offense to you guys, because it takes discipline to do it consistently. And I don't know what it is about people in general, but real estate agents especially. Doing something over and over again is a hard
trick. Why are you the way you are?
Yeah. But you know why? It's because you're your own boss in real estate. I don't know if you guys feel this or not. I feel like in employment, you show up and you're like, I have to work for the boss, man. I have to do what they tell me to do. And so you do the work. But when you're a real estate agent, you're your own boss, so you can control your own time. So the idea of showing up actually for work at 8 a.m. and doing the task that you have to do is like a foreign concept, even though it almost is, and I've shared this before, it's like so disrespectful to yourself.
Yeah.
It's like you respect, if you worked for corporate America, you respect that boss more and making that owner more money than you even respect yourself.
Right.
Because you don't show up for yourself.
It's what everyone has to get back to, too. That's what we're talking about up in sales. You have to get back to the manual task. I think that's a good way of putting it. It's like you won't survive in this market, not to be like a fear monger, but like you won't survive in this market if you do not get back to phone calls and doing the manual tasks like the CMA a day or CMA a day, right?
Well,
but go ahead.
I was saying, I feel like the reason that's a little bit harder is it does take time and it's not instant gratification.
Yeah.
So tasks like that for real estate, real estate's a long game, but a lot of times we're still trying to do the short game. Yeah. So to do something like that and be future focused that much, can be more difficult to do. So then you're like, maybe there's something more important to do.
Right.
But because I was previously doing the ZMAs day or CMAs day, and it does create conversations. None of them are going to be typically instantaneous, but it's just that re-engaging point with that email. And they work pretty well. It's a good conversation starter. And then the biggest thing is not to have an ask. Like, it's not like, hey, I want to sell your home. It's more like, hey, you see, like you said, hey, you see this price. What do you think about this? It's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah. And the reason it's so important right now is like, I think this will help everyone out. It's like 50% of all buyers said they want their realtor to find them a property, right? And the reason being is because we're in a low inventory market right now. And so like your number one task is finding inventory. So you find inventory, you're going to get a double transaction, right? You're going to get the sell, you might even get a triple. You're going to get the sell side, and then they're going to buy something else. So that's a double right there. And then you might even pick up a buyer from it through open houses and through marketing your listing. But that's the name of the game right now with the low inventory market is we got to go out and find those listings, right? And so people can understand that. And then the other reason that that's so important is prices are up. How much are they up in Lynchburg, you said?
Like 30,000.
That 30,000. So like if prices are up, sellers are unaware that prices are good because we have the media saying the market is bad, right? And so when they're getting that education on the price, right, they are unaware that they get such a high price for their listings. And so it's just such a beautiful task to get business.
I was hoping to find, I was looking on my phone on Instagram, 1000 Watt does a bunch of research, right? And so they're a great company for people to follow. And I thought it was them that put it out, but I think it was maybe Jared James or somebody like that was reposting 1000 Watt research. But number one thing people look for in a buyer's agent is assessing the property. And I thought that was interesting. It wasn't contract. It wasn't negotiation. It was assessing the property. But when I thought about it deeper, I was like, yeah, my biggest fear is that I don't know if this is, am I going to get a limit? That's the better way to say it. Yeah. Like, that's my biggest fear. And I go, yeah, that makes so much sense that as a buyer's agent, like, that is your main thing, your value. Like, I can make sure you don't get screwed.
But that comes down to, like, that doesn't come down to just the value of the property, like within the first year or when you buy it. That comes down to what is the buyer actually after? Are they going to be living there 5 to 10 years? Is this a dream home? Is this a stepping, stone property? Right. So you got to be able to analyze the buyer's situation in that. So they want the assessment, but they want the assessment of their life, right, with the value of the property and what they're going to utilize that asset as. But I think a lot of people think it's just value, right? Did I get the best deal on this property? But the best deal aligns with terms, how long you're going to be at the property, does this area appreciate faster than other areas, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So CMA a day, I would encourage, you guys keep doing it. I want to hear your results because you guys are going to be regulars on this new format of just kind of a conversational podcast about growing business. But, I want to hear kind of if we do it, I'm trying to track it with Tim consistently. How many combos are we getting that are netting into actual deals? So that way we can share it with everybody who listens in to see kind of journey wise. I mean, because you guys have already done 120 deals and it's only May. How many agents do you have right now?
So we have 13 agents.
13 agents. How many are actually producing out of that?
5.
5.
Yeah.
So
5 at
five are producing the 120. Nice.
Yeah, I would say 5's probably in we have a little over.
Okay, time to get rid of the other ones, guy. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. If you're listening to this, people on Steven's team, you need to train up. There you go. Train up, get better. We're going to have to cut it, the podcast now a little short because I have another podcast.
Oh, we're not going to have time for listener Q&A.
Yeah, well, let's ask.
Let's tease it.
Let's ask one listener Q&A question because it's 11:45. I actually have a podcast I have to be on at 12.
We get a lot of people asking us because we talk about geographic farming and we talk about turnover rates and everything. So we get a lot of people asking us, especially now, and I would love to get your takes on it, Cody and Steven, because you're in it every day. But with turnover rate, their concerns are turnover rates are falling, right? They're lower. And industry standard, if you go with the recommendations, is around 6%. If you're not seeing a 6% turnover rate, how are you adjusting for your geographic farming efforts, or are you guys seeing that turnover rate change at all right now?
You're talking about the turnover as far as sellers in a community?
Yeah. So we would say turnover rate calculated by how many houses are in a community, divided by how many sold within the last 12 months.
I mean, it is just upping your action. So that's why I think it's manual tasks. I don't think the people that are just doing marketing and want to do the business the same way they've been doing it for the last 2 years are going to get the number of sales that they had the last 2 years, right? Or the previous 2 years. So I think you just have to know that if you want to hire, number of transactions, you're going to have to up your activities, which the activities are more going to be manual. They're going to be phone calls, right? So it's like you're getting passive business from that geo farm at a 6% turnover rate, right? And now it keeps decreasing and decreasing. You're just going to have to up your efforts on number of phone calls to that community, number of events to that community, right? And you may even want to up, the number of postcards sent out. Would be my thought.
Are you seeing more or less sales in your market?
We actually we're up. We're up.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're up. So for us, it's just taking more action.
Yeah.
So, and whatever, obviously there's a lot of different ways you can do real estate, door knocking, open houses, calls, whatever. But what I've been coaching on is hey, whatever you're deciding to do to make that pillar, you got to go all in on it. Yeah. And then all of it from there is just numbers. So we're keeping a close track of all right, how many appointments are you getting from how many doors are you knocking? How many appointments are you getting from calls? So it's all trackable too. So if your numbers start to go down, that the initial needs to increase so that you can get your same close rate of deals. It's all a numbers game as far as that goes. If you're seeing that go down and your normal is this, well, that means you need to go here to get back to your appointment set of the closings that you want. Yeah.
I think it's a great, almost, as you guys are talking about it, golden nugget from the standpoint of a lot of people look at turnover rate and say, oh, well, the turnover rate's low, therefore I shouldn't bother with that area. You guys are actually talking about impacting the turnover rate, do the daily activities that it takes to create the listings that creates the sales that then ultimately shifts the needle on their turnover rate. I thought that's
we all got lazy in the good market. What I mean? The amount of fluff that was, we were sending out postcards and getting deals from it, Facebook and getting deals from it. There was a lot of fluff in there because we were just in a great market, you know? And so we're probably in the market that it's going to be for a while, right? And so you just need to know that this is your job. Your job is to show up to the office every day, send out properties to your buyers, right? Because that's what 50% of buyers are saying they want from their realtor. And taking those kind of actions like it's a job rather than it's just I live in a passive business, where I can just, I can show up when I want and get a ton of deals. It just doesn't work that way. And it shouldn't have worked that way, right? In the previous market.
And the one biggest feedback I've gotten from a list and a buy recently got, is the reason they went with me is because of communication. So you've got to be at the top level with communication. Yeah. Because you responded, it was a family member that I was in competition with. Yeah. And they're you have responded to us and give us everything we needed way quicker than that person did. So that's why we're choosing to go with you.
Wow.
Communication level is just is the most important thing, because then you're active. So in the morning, you send the house before they wake up. Yeah. So they wake up and they're oh, I got a house to look at. Yeah. Even if it's not exactly what they want, but it's shoot, he's in it. He's communicating. I've
were in competition with someone else's family member, and you got the business.
Yeah, my cousin, and
because you were faster.
Causing drama at Thanksgiving, man. That's what you're doing. Go with the Acree brothers. We create drama at your family.
Yeah, we'll be your new family member.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
Awesome, man. Guys, thanks for coming on our episode, our inaugural, 500 episode, inaugural, new format episode.
New format, conversational.
You can follow. It's
going to only get better and better because you're going to hear some real thoughts on what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
You can follow us on Instagram at Stay Paid Podcast. Send us your questions. We want to tackle your questions. It could be real estate related. It could be business related. Any questions that you got, we would love to be able to answer those here on our podcast. And if you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@reminderme.com. You can also find us on Instagram, like I said, at Stay Paid Podcast. Did you hear about the company that makes 12-inch rollers? Yeah, it turns out they're not making them any longer.
There we go.
So that's...
Wow.
I pulled that one from the recesses.
Just when you thought you were going to lose the dad jokes. Nope, ladies and gentlemen, they're staying.
I got to give credit to our show writer who writes Gabrielle. She sent me that a while ago, and it just came back to me.
That's awesome.
All right, that's it. That's all I got, man.
That's it. Hey, well, make sure if you like this podcast, we do need you to review it, and we do need you to share it, because that is how it gets seen by more people, and ultimately it can help more people and also help Josh and I grow our business, which we appreciate all the support. So go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. My action item for you guys, because that is the reason we're doing this, is do the CMA or ZMA, meaning the Zestimate, a day. All I want you to do is take one person in your database today, go do a screenshot of their Zestimate of what their property's worth, text it to them and say, wow, was looking at homes in your area. I wanted to check what your home was worth. Look what Zillow says. I got my opinion. What do you think yours is? Or what is your opinion? And engage them in conversation. Do that today. Remember the difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every industry. Top producers take action. Take action on that today.